I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright.
Though 1977 may not have been the best year for fashion, however, the Ford Fiesta was released for the first time and Fleetwood Mac's Rumours was released also that year. Muhammad Ali visited Newcastle upon Tyne and also helped himself to a stotty while he was there. But I was too young to visit because me, I look like this, food in hand, wearing purple, ambiguous hairdo. Definitely me.
Meanwhile, at 284 Green Street, Brimton and Enfield, the stage had been set for some of the most compelling paranormal evidence in modern history. The Hodgson family lived in this house. Mum, Peggy, and her children, Janet, who was 11, Margaret, or little Peggy, if you will, Billy, who was 7, and Johnny, who was 10 years old, but away at boarding school for most of the occurrences. On the 30th of August 1977, the family had not only begun to hear knocks and bangs, but Billy's bed began moving of its own accord. On the 31st, Peggy stormed upstairs to tell her children off for all the noise they were making, to find it wasn't them, but a chest of drawers moving by itself. Peggy pushed it back into place and then watched it move out again. She tried once more to push it back into place, but it would not budge, as if held by an unseen force. The family rushed next door to their neighbours, the Nottinghams, and Vic Nottingham thought it might be a structural or subsidence issue, but on investigating he found that he was followed around the house by knocking.
Sitting and listening to the knocking, and the woman next door, she called me in. We couldn't make out what it was. I heard the knocking as I walked in the front door, but I went all over the house, checked it, checked the walls, checked everything. Just couldn't make out what it was. So in the end I thought to myself, well, there's only one thing, I'll call the police.
On the 1st of August, the police visited the property and Constable Caroline Heaps made a statement about what she witnessed there.
It came off the floor, or nearly a half inch I should say, and I saw it slide off to the right, about 3.5 to 4 feet before it came to rest. I checked to see whether or not it could possibly have slid along the floor. I placed a marble on the floor to see whether or not the marble would go in the same direction as the chair did, and it didn't roll at all. I checked for wires under the cushion of the chair, and I could find no explanation at all.
Given that there was no crime committed, and no doubt the police deal with human beings and not, well, something else, there wasn't much they could do to help the Hodgsons. Over the following weeks, journalist Douglas Bence and photographer Graham Morris investigated the alleged paranormal events at Green Street. Initially, they had spent the night alone in the house and found nothing unusual. In the early hours of the morning, they told the Hodgsons, who had found refuge with their next door neighbours, that, the coast is clear, you could return home, there's nothing happening. And it was safe to go home. On re-entering the property, the Hodgsons found Lego bricks and marbles were being thrown around by an unseen force, and the journalist and the photographer witnessed this also. On the 5th of September, a notable character enters the story of the Enfield case. Maurice Groves of the Society of Psychical Research arrives to investigate. He said that on arriving he found chaos. Morris states that what he witnessed while in the house convinced him that the case warranted further investigation. He urged Mum Peggy to stay safe and calm and to make a diary of supernatural incidents that occurred. The house continued to be visited and reported on by the media, such as BBC Radio 4, who sent journalist Rosalind Morris to interview Peggy. While Ros was in the house, she witnessed a chair move by itself and a bed shaking. Morris was joined by Guy Lyon Playfair also from the Society of Psychical Research around this time, and Guy went on to visit the house 180 times, meticulously log everything that went on and attend all overnight vigils. So the family was sent to Claxton-on-Sea by the council because the council were unable to rehome them and wanted to acknowledge the stress the family was under. During the family's absence, Morris began to attempt communication with the haunting. Morris asked, "Can you tell me what 5 and 5 is?" When the entity knocked 10 times, Morris then gave it the opportunity to knock once for no and twice for yes.
Knock 1 for no and 2 for yes. Are you a male spirit? 1 for no and 2 for yes.
2.
That's 2. You are a male spirit. Did you used to live in this house? You did. Was it more than 50 years ago? Yes. Did you die in this house? Did you pass on? You did pass on in this house. Now why are you here? Are you unhappy? You're not unhappy. But why are you here? Is it because you want to give us a special message? No. You don't want to give us a special message. Are you having a game with me? Oh, right. As I asked the question, are you having a game with me? It's through the cardboard box and the pillow right at my face.
Paranormal events continued. On one occasion, Morris found Janet sliding backwards down the stairs, still fast asleep, and her uncle, John Burkham, found Janet asleep on top of a radio on a chest of drawers. What's remarkable about that is that Janet was given a dose of 10 milligrams of Valium earlier in the day by a doctor following a seizure of some kind. On the 10th of December 1977, Morris attempted to get the entity to speak in the presence of psychology specialists. The sound came from Janet. She said it felt like it was coming from behind her. At first there was a series of barks and whistles, but Morris thought that if he could make a barking sound, it could speak, so he asked it to do so.
Let me hear you say my name. Come on, let me hear you say my name. That's not my name. Come on, my name's Morris. Let me hear you say it. Morris.
Little Peggy, Janet's sister, said that once the voices started, most of them were just nonsense, but that there was one particular voice that made an impact, and that was Bill Wilkins.
2 days before I died, I went blind. Then I had an hemorrhage, and I fell asleep, and I died in a chair in the corner downstairs.
Another voice claimed to be called Fred. Janet had microphones applied to the front and back of her neck, and when recording, the loudest sound came from the back of her neck, supporting Janet's claim that the voice was behind her. Bill did indeed die in the chair in the living room downstairs. This was confirmed by his son. His cause of death was a blood clot blocking his coronary artery. Bill died at 61 years old. Morris Gross had to wait for 19 years before he could get that confirmed by Bill Wilkins' son, Terry. He contacted Gross after he saw him doing an interview about it and playing the tape. As for Fred, the late father of Hodgkin's neighbour, Vic Nottingham, was named Fred. So the entity got 2 items right, the name and the place of death, both 3 items wrong because he said he was 72 when he was 61, the cause of death wasn't a hemorrhage, and the place he was buried was not what the spirit claimed it was. The lollipop lady, Hazel Short, saw this, and as did the bread man. Okay, back in the 70s in the United Kingdom, people would deliver bread to your door. It's a whole thing. So they both saw Janet floating horizontally, surrounded by books and toys. Hazel was unconvinced of what she'd seen and thought Janet was putting it on. So as soon as she went home, she got on her bed and tried to achieve what she'd seen happening with Janet.
I saw Janet laying flat, and she was floating. She was going up and down in front of the bedroom window. I came home and I kept thinking about it, and I thought to myself, well, maybe she was doing it herself. I don't know. So I came straight in, took my coat off, my hat, went straight upstairs to my own bed, laid on my own bed, and tried to lift myself up horizontally.
Events continued later into the year, and over Christmas the family's goldfish died simultaneously, and Bill Wilkins claimed the credit for this, saying he had electrocuted them with spirit energy. Peggy Hodgson found Janet being strangled by a curtain more than once and had to wrangle her free. The family claimed that throughout this time they had seen apparitions in the home, and they were also notably visited by Ed and Lorraine Warren, most famous for their investigations into the Amityville case and the Annabelle the Ragdoll case. Dolls. Janet was sent to Maudley Hospital for a neuropsychological examination. She was found to be healthy. No incidents occurred within the hospital while she was there, and after she returned home, a Dutch medium named Dono Meling, excuse me pronunciation if it's wrong, visited the home to heal it.
This house is clean.
Things were said to calm down after that, and the events, although never completely absent, subsided into the occasional incident. So this case has been the inspiration for many spooky movies over the years, such as The Conjuring 2 and the main antagonist in Ghostbusters. Well, who are we kidding? If Stay Puft hadn't been flammable, that movie would have ended a lot sooner. Just saying. But was it real? Was the Enfield Poltergeist case real? Well, there is compelling evidence in the case, so let's have a look at the evidence for the authenticity of the Enfield Poltergeist and some of the counterclaims. So the knocks and bangs was explained away as the girls did this. However, there is a BBC interview where both girls are sat on the sofa being interviewed with the hands in full view. So if they'd knocked on anything, well, they couldn't have knocked on anything with their hands. If they knocked on anything with their feet, the interviewer would have seen that. However, the clip of Morris talking to the knocks and bangs, you can't see his hands. I'm not saying he was knocking, but it's odd that the camera was facing his back and he was right next to the wall. However, this does not discount the banging heard by a myriad of other witnesses, including the signed affidavit from the police officer. Why would you put your entire career on the line to support a ghost story? So the levitation claim. Witness testimony is notoriously unreliable, cry the skeptics. This is true, it is. But it's usually about the physical appearance of someone and not an 11-year-old girl levitating. So I'm unsure. The lollipop lady tried to recreate it but couldn't. Janet was alone in the room. I have no idea how that might have been achieved. So the explanation of the voice, that Janet was being a ventriloquist. Okay, this is very possible. I don't know if you did, but when I was a kid, I had a book on ventriloquism and I used to try and do it. Of course, I was useless at it, but that doesn't mean Janet was. Morris's counter to this was that he had the girls tested to see if they were ventriloquists. So to that, I say this, it's not something you can just test for. Like, you can't test for the rolling of a tongue. I could be asked, could you roll your tongue, and go, no, but there was a point made about Janet getting a very sore throat after having done this voice for hours and hours on end, and that she would have had a sore throat, and the investigators had tried to recreate what Janet did and found themselves in a lot of pain, yet Janet seemed unaffected. I appreciate this point, but also Janet had a younger voice box, and that may have played a part. So, Bill's existence. The argument here is that the girls just picked up this knowledge and repeated it. Okay, we've looked at that. I don't know either way, but the most compelling evidence for me is that the girls both insist that this happened all these years later. Janet even seemed genuinely hurt at a skeptic dismissing her experience. Mum Peggy, in her 2012 interview, stood by the events.
What do you say to people who say to you, with you children playing around? What do you say about that?
I say that's a matter of opinion. If you haven't experienced it, you're going to say that. But it did really happen.
What I haven't heard from the skeptics is a plausible explanation for some of the events catalogued through the Enfield case. Not one that satisfied me fully. Now, I'm a very sceptical person and easily explain away most things that I claim to be paranormal. But I'm yet to hear a comprehensive explanation that disproves the Enfield Poltergeist case. It will remain, for me and many others, a big old question mark. If you have enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe for more like this. Also, if you want to support the channel financially, you can join as a member and be turned into a bat. Both Janet and Margaret stand by what happened, and I will leave you with impactful interviews with them both as adults looking back on their time at 284 Green Street.
And they just can't make out why, and I can't tell them. Because that's what it leaves you with, this thing you've experienced, you know.
I just felt as a person they were to do with me. And I didn't feel in control. I felt used. I still say used.